Welcome back. It is the afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Hopefully you are all fed and watered and you are joining us here on the main stage after Marcin from MailerLite and Danielle's Canva making videos in Canva. Sorry, Danielle. Sessions a moment ago. In a second, we are going to bring up James and Kelly, and they're going to be talking about a global business. And that part of, we've been talking about the opportunity of being digital and being online. And it is, we're all global businesses. It's something Emily and I are ridiculously passionate about. Now, I was going to waffle, but do you know what? I'm not going to waffle. I am going to bring up James and Kelly because their story is going to be way more exciting than anything I can come up with. Yeah, James and Kelly, let me click you all in. And there we go. Hi, guys. You all right?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having us.
I'm going to disappear and hand over to you. Thank you very much.
There we go. Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm Kelly West. You probably guessed that because of the picture on the screen there.
I'm James West. Hello, everyone.
And we are the co-founders of ONLE Networking, the online business network for people who like people. So as of January this year, ONLE officially became a global business with the launch of ONLE New York. But while that symbolically is massively important to us, and we did do a little dance around the front room when this happened, we've been a global business for a lot longer than that. And today we're going to explain to you how you too can become a global business.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to start in obviously the most obvious starting point for any story about global business, our wedding day. So I'm going to ask you to picture the scene. I will show pictures in a minute, but this is important. Our wedding day. So you've got a picture, New York City. This is July 2016. More specifically, we're in the park underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. If you've ever been there, it's floating around the 100-degree mark. Quite a hot day, as it turned out. So we're waiting for a chap called Stephen to turn up. Stephen is the wedding officiant who's going to perform the ceremony and hopefully get us married. And on that note, we suddenly sort of looked at each other and went, hang on, this guy, this Stephen, who we've only ever talked to online, if he doesn't turn up, we're two people in wedding gear who are not getting married today. That was the severity of it. So talk about trust in the online process. But fortunately, he did turn up, and there's a couple of pictures. You can see Stephen there. Don't know what we were saying there, Kelly, but it made him happy. But
obviously,
it must have been fantastic. But so we had the ceremony under the bridge. Lots of Americans stood by and clapped, and then we walked over the bridge, and you can imagine Americans were whooping and clapping, and it was all very fantastic and very symbolic, very, very memorable day. But Kelly's going to tell us what significance that has for you lot, other than being just a nice story. Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very nice story and it was a lovely day. But exactly, what's it got to do with you building a global business and building on that expansion? So just before we got married, so literally that picture in the middle, just before we were saying our vows, Stephen asked us what we did for work. And at that time, we were web designers. So we answered web designers. And he said, right, hold that thought. So subsequently, he asked us to build his New York wedding websites. And to this day, if you Google overseas visitors getting married in New York, you will see that we are the Google snippet, as James is very nicely put on the screen there. So anyone can Google that and we come up, and that has brought him an awful lot of business for overseas clients because of obviously the Google snippet there. It also transpired that Stephen's a musician. He'd recorded blues albums in Memphis. Guess what? We built those websites as well. So as you can see, very quickly from one connection, we have then managed to build many with Stephen as a result, just from that day.
Absolutely. So yeah, look, it's a cute story, and thank you for your lovely comments. Can we have a few more in the chat, please? It also helped convince us that we should probably, if we're going to network on our wedding day, it might be a good idea to do a business based around networking, which is part of the genesis of ONLE. For the purposes of this presentation, what's really important, and what Kelly's already alluded to, is this idea that one connection, however unlikely, can lead to a business opportunity, and in some cases, many business opportunities. So hold that thought as we go on to the next part. Kelly.
So it is, of course, possible to market your small business globally, and you can do that using social media, video, ads, PR, etc., whatever it is you choose to do. But we all know how noisy it is, and actually a few of the speakers have talked about that today, finding your difference with Jodie. What do you offer that's a little bit different? Al talked about this as well. So businesses and individuals are collectively spending billions trying to gain attention. Okay, so unless you're you have a razor sharp proposition and the skill to stand out from the crowd, it's really, really difficult to find that route. For us, networking is the hack to building a global business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll show you this slide to kind of, because New York's a great example of this happening for us to build this global business. Look, we started as a in-person networking event in Winchester in 2018, was it, Kelly?
Yep.
17 people. You know, this was small fry. And then over the last couple of years, particularly with the shift to online, we've been able to go to London, Manchester, and obviously culminating in New York. But look, we build websites. We built a couple of hundred in a very short period of time. We were really successful at it. We also know quite a lot about marketing. I was a journalist. I spent a lot of time freelance marketing for people. So when we built the Only New York website, we built a specific website just to sell the concept of Only US. We poured all of our marketing expertise into it. We also spent additionally, we spent on additional SEO services to support what we were doing. We paid for digital ads. But when we did the kind of post-mortem, probably the wrong word, but you get what I'm saying, of where the visitors and therefore the members of Only New York came from, 95% of them easily came actually from two sources. First one, it was the existing Only members. They understood what they did. They recommended people come along to Only New York. And then the second place that most of those visitors came from was we just had conversations with people. Lots of conversations on LinkedIn. If you're using LinkedIn to post and not have conversations, you're doing it wrong. It's all about having conversations. And look, many of them went nowhere. It was just a pleasantry. We just had a little conversation. Nothing happened off of the back of it. But some of them turned into keystone connections. And we're going to talk about the importance of that in a moment. Without those two activities, Only New York would have failed, even with all of our experience and knowledge of how to market and grow a business website, etc. What's the common denominator between those two activities? Yeah, you guessed it, it's networking. They're both networking activities. Members understood what we did. They became our ambassadors. They told their connections, you'll love these guys. You'll love what they're doing culturally. Come along to that meeting. And then those keystone connections that really started opening a lot of doors to us. Kelly's going to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, and just to point out what Richard said, yeah, so we know Richard really well, and he is absolutely right. Keep building on those connections. You don't need to talk to somebody just once. You need to keep having that conversation. There we go. It's been put on the screen magically there, because you need to build on it. It's not one hit wonders for networking. So why is networking so powerful for building the global business particularly? Well, I think most small businesses we meet are low volume suppliers. So by that we mean they typically have between 5 and 10 clients at any one time. So this means that one conversation can actually lead to one relationship that will open many, many doors. So if you think about your own clients and where they came from, which relationship made the connection that led you to your biggest client? Did it also then lead you into finding other clients? Probably did. It's probably a knock-on effect. I think if you're an experienced networker, you will always have 2, 3 or 4 people that are very core to you, that you know are absolutely singing your praises, and they're out there shouting about you and connecting you. Richard's actually one of mine. Gives me fantastic connections. Okay. So in our experience, there's going to be 3 or 4 keystone connections that open up these opportunities for you.
It's a great point. If you've never done that exercise, by the way, do it, because you'll realize it is a very small number of people that have opened doors. And I'm going to now give you another visual. I love maps as well, so that's where this one came from. But picture, if you will, a tube map. And there's one line with a couple of stations, okay? It might be red. I picture it as red. Anyone else come up with red? Anyway, one line with a couple of stations on it. If you think about it, that's the beginning of your networking journey. Each of those stations give you access to a certain number of people. What happens is, at some point in the networking journey, as long as you approach it correctly, you will get to another person who gets you access to another station. That takes you a little bit further down the line, opens up your connections to others. Keystone connection, if I'm not overstretching this analogy, are the people that give you access to a station that takes you onto another line. So that's that person that points you in a completely different direction. You might have grown up as I did in the IT world. I was a journalist in the IT world. I then met someone who took me into the pharmaceutical industry. That's a different line of my network, and it opens up that world of possibilities. Then you go down that line, you meet another keystone person who opens up another line. You get the idea. If you take that metaphor, you start to build a tube map of really important, meaningful connections. If you don't like tube maps, you can do it with a tree. That's the other way we've done this description in the past. Kelly, back to you.
I'm rubbish with maps, so I'll stick with the tree. But yes, we get the point. You get the point. And actually, to Louise's point there, when she first started, she got fully booked from one person's connections. Bonkers, yeah. But Louise, do you know what? Credit to you, because your messaging was obviously right, because they connected you to the right people. So if you are somebody who finds you're being connected with someone, you think, why did they connect me with that person? It's because they didn't know what you did in the first place, and that's probably your fault, not theirs necessarily. Not always, because people aren't always good listeners, but I would suggest that you want to check your messaging. But anyway, back to the point in hand. So how do you make those connections who will help you create your global tube map? Well, simply put, you can't predict it. You can't guess who they'll be. This is James's famous networking Guess Who. And some of you will have seen this. So he talks about the board, that game, I'm showing my age here, where you clack down the tiles because, no, I don't want to speak to that person. They're not going to be any good for me. And you can quite often get into that mindset when you're networking. You shouldn't, because you just do not know when that person is going to be the right connection for you. Networking is all about serendipity. So the most unlikely connections will often prove to be the most valuable. And I'm pretty sure we can all say that there's been somebody that's been in that category for us. Never assume that people are useful to you or not based on their professional, their job title. So we send out attendance sheets at our networking, and we quite often get people say, oh, can you send me a list of who's going to be there? No. Do you know what? Best thing is, don't come along. And that sounds really arrogant, but if you are coming along because you are going to cherry pick who you want to talk to, that is absolutely the wrong approach, in our opinion. Okay, so never assume based on job title, because you'll miss myriad opportunities with that approach. In our opinion, the biggest mistake that most people make while networking is closing the lines without ever exploring them. Be open-minded, guys, and talk to people that you wouldn't normally talk to, particularly in the online world. It's a really easy thing to do now. So sessions like this, so the networking, you don't know who you're going to talk to. It's fantastic because it forces you to talk to somebody and talk about something a little bit different. The right approach with networking is to show interest in everyone and build credit with your network by trying to help the people you meet. So by that credit then pays dividends when you ask for help. And we saw this when we asked our members to connect us with their contacts. The guaranteed way to ruin your network is going into every conversation with an agenda to sell. And we talked about this with someone earlier. Yes, occasionally you'll get lucky and you'll meet the right person at the right time and they might want to buy that thing you're selling to them. But that's not ultimately what people go networking for. But in every other instance, you'll alienate most connections before the relationships had a chance to develop. So going back to that tube line analogy, you're cutting off the lines that could potentially lead directly or indirectly via a different line to the people who will help you find those key clients locally and globally.
I really don't like that analogy, but I've written, she has to say all this stuff out loud. And look, Kelly, lots of support for my tube map thing. Richard's even talking about lost stations. Very cool, isn't it? But visualization, it's great. Look, let's talk specifically, just as we start to wrap up, about online networking and how that's so powerful now for building an online business. So online networking wasn't invented for the lockdown. It was possible and it did exist pre-lockdown. We were actually doing it for 2 years before, which is partly why we did it quite well from the off-go. And we did go into lockdown. But the lockdown has certainly been the making of online networking, because it went from something that people didn't really understand to now, oh yeah, I kind of get it. And I think people are at different stages of maturity in terms of getting benefit from it. The benefits of online networking, I probably don't have to oversell to you. It's much more time effective. It doesn't cost you money with fuel prices going mad. You don't have to use as much time. Geographically blows out the water, the reach of people you would meet in in-person networking. That stuff's obvious. The bit that remains, a lot of people are getting over this, but there are still dissenters, people that don't quite get it. This perception that, yeah, but networking only works when you meet people in person, doesn't it? That's not true. Absolutely isn't true. And I can give you multiple examples of why that isn't true. We've seen it within ONLE. Our networking is now seeing people trading nationally and now internationally. So it's completely disproven that idea. Kelly.
I'm just looking at the chat and I'm loving, I did expect something from Jodie. That's a good answer there. Timo, absolutely automation for messaging. Yes, we hate it. I think you're going to be James's new best friend because he talks about that all the time. Al, curiosity, definitely. Nosy, curious, nosy. I'm nosy. I come off of one-to-ones and James normally says to me, wow, you find out a lot about people. Yeah, because I'm really nosy. And I ask lots of questions. So again, back to the point. For small businesses that have aspirations to be regional, national, and ultimately global, online networking, as James has said, is where the gold rush is at. There's still plenty of people, again, as James has said, that are being stubborn and sitting on the, I need to go back in person. But guys, go with the flow, because this is where it's at. We're all here today. And it's a mental block for some people, and most typically just demonstrated by people that don't want to meet in person. So it does come down to a simple choice. Do you want to spend your time on activities that grow and expand your business in the most timely and cost-effective manner? Or do you want to choose activities that you enjoy or prefer? I was on an online event recently and they asked why people wouldn't go back face-to-face, and 0% of people said COVID. That ship's gone now. And of course, that will be in the back of a lot of people's minds, but time massively is the reason that people do not want to go back in person. So there are, of course, many businesses continuing to choose to do the latter, and it's your prerogative as a business owner to do the same. But just be aware the impact of your preference, because in the background, your competitors will be following the pragmatic and progressive approach, and they will probably be gaining the benefits and the limitless potential of online networking as a result.
Absolutely. Look, you do have to put the effort in. We've saved you a lot of time with online networking, but if you don't have conversations with people, you will get nothing from this. We often get people that come to networking events that say, yeah, I'm up for one-to-ones with people. Don't be that person. Be proactive. We've given you the contacts. You can use this platform today, can't you? You can click on, I've got about 20 tabs open on LinkedIn because I'm going to message people. Don't do the thing where you just hit connect, by the way, pointless. If you don't send a message, you're not relationship building, you're padding your contacts. We were talking to Al about this earlier, but you do have to put the effort in to build depth into relationships. Laurie's talked about demonstrating interest in people all day long. Absolutely. Don't really care about what people do. Don't expect them to care about you. You have to build depth into those relationships. But once you've understood this fundamental truth about online networking, it's no longer prerequisite to meet people in person to do business with them. Once you've got that, sky's the limit. Why are you limiting your networking to a local area? Why not go to New York and beyond? If you want to learn how to do that more effectively, myself and Kelly run a workshop each month. We call it How to Network Online. Handy title, does what it says. It's tomorrow and it's free to attend. You don't have to be an only member. We just want to help everyone get benefit from online networking. So I believe our able assistant, Kearney, is going to post a link in the chat if you want to book on and come along to that tomorrow. If you can't make tomorrow, there's dates next month and beyond as well. Kelly, that's you.
Just Nicola's put something in the chat there about, do you think online networking takes longer to build the relationship? Yes, Nicola, it can do. I think because we are sat in our homes quite often and we've got a screen in front of us, we're probably quite more open about what we talk about because we feel safe and we share a little bit more. Not always, but I think we do go into that relationship build quite quickly. The key is to maintain that relationship. If you're out and about and you're meeting people and you know you're going to bump into them once a month because they're in the same room as you, then that familiarity is there. When you're online, we would always recommend that you follow up with your connections, even from today on LinkedIn. So you should all have a list of people that you've met today. You then go on LinkedIn, you talk to them on there. So you do have to make more effort on keeping the momentum of the relationship going.
Can I just jump in there, Nicola? That is such a good point, and that's one of the perceptions, because what you don't get, what we've learned with online networking, is you don't get the fortuitous bit that we used to get when we were doing in-person networking, where I'd end up walking from my car into the venue with someone who I don't really know, and you just have that little chit chat or getting the coffee. Absolutely do not get that in online networking. You can recreate it in different ways. And like Kelly's saying, a lot of the time it's just having conversations with people online, commenting on their posts. It's getting away from this idea that social media is a platform just to broadcast marketing messages. Because, by the way, I'm asking for a show of hands. I know most of you will put your hands up. Who wants to read my marketing messages? and everyone puts their hands down. Of course you don't. But what you do want to do is have people that show interest in you. And that's how you connect the dots and deepen those relationships, by caring about what people have been supporting their content online. Kelly, back to you to wrap up.
Absolutely mindful of time. Again, Al is definitely your new best friend with that comment that he's put in the chat box there. Yeah, couldn't agree more, Al. 20 minutes, there you go. It's not bad timing. So thank you all for listening. As James has said, do come along and join us tomorrow for that session, whether you're an experienced networker or not. I know there's a few only members here today. Guys, great opportunity for you to make some new connections as well. It's free to attend. Jump on the link. And then just last of all, thank you. And thank you to Alan and Emily, because this is a fantastic platform of wonderfully connected people. So our little thank you from you is if you'd like to start building your global networking map, which I think Lisa Kirkbride might need to be onto a new image for us, James, I think after today, use the code ONLE Circus and you can come along and visit us for a half price visit. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And we are going to pop into the booth afterwards so we can do a bit of an impromptu Q&A if you've got questions you want to ask. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, guys. And you know what? It's like we planned this, and I don't mean that stupidly. But, you know, if you can't see the themes running through this, then I'll type it in the chat in a bit. But, you know, we're looking at conversations, people, connections, and it's going round. And it doesn't matter if you've got 25,000 people on TikTok, like Danielle. I think I just picked that figure out the air, hopefully. Or you're a global networking brand, or you're doing what we do at Yellow Tuxedo. It's still built in the same things, isn't it? That connections, those conversations, it's only three things. I've had to look at it. Connections, conversations, and people. So look, thank you so much, guys. Do check them out in the booth, and do join us all at 3 o'clock. What we all want to do is go networking. So at 3 to 3:30, the networking area is open for all of us to go speed networking. Okay, it's set to 5 minutes. Just go in, go, yeah, great, connect, send each other messages. But remember, that's just the beginning. It's what happens after that, as James and Kelly have been talking about. That's important. Comfort break now. Then we've got Trisha with demonstrating a non-scary way of getting more of you in your business content. And John Banks, who's a side income legend, taking you through some potential new revenue streams for growing when you're growing your business online. Right, we're out of here. So let's all wave and goodbye, and I will hit stop broadcasting. See you all soon. Thanks again, guys. Bye.
Bye.